34, they're brothers from Paris, allegedly. So we are starting to find out a little bit more about them, which might mean that the authorities are closer onto their tail. We found out earlier that police raided 2 apartments in northwestern Paris.
Nigeria's Minister for Foreign Affairs says the actions taken by some countries against Nigerian citizens are contrary to the guidelines of the World Health Organization and are unacceptable because the Ebola virus is being contained in Nigeria. But it's being perceived as a strong sign of his commitment to continued EU support in the region early on in his tenure as humanitarian aid chief. The British newspaper, the Financial Times, has reported that the Greek Finance Ministry is considering cutting 30% from all bank deposits over €8,000. That's caused real fear here on the streets of Athens. It was here on this street behind me where the attack took place, but this isn't the first time Charlie Hebdo has been targeted. Back in November 2011, the HQ was firebombed.
I'm stood here in the crowd by Syntagma Square in the centre of Athens. You can see the Greek Parliament just there behind me. There's tens of thousands of people here on the street to listen to the Greek Prime Minister, Alexis Tsipras, tell them things they've heard many times before. That is that they should vote no Oki in Sunday's referendum, that they should not accept the austerity measures that the international creditors want to impose on them. And as you can hear, there is a lot of support for what he's saying at the moment.
The G7 leaders, the US and the EU are still not happy with what's happening with Russia, and they want to see troops removed from the eastern Ukrainian border, and they want to see open discussion and dialogue between Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, and the new Ukrainian president, Petro Poroshenko. Greece's bailout needs to be signed off by August 20th with the Eurozone lenders. That's the day the country has to repay €3.2 billion to the European Central Bank.
It's a very tight schedule, and any hiccups
The Chamber is pushing the referral decision back onto the trial chamber here at the court. But most importantly, they're also asking the trial chamber to reassess whether or not the Kenyan government was indeed non-compliant in the case.
Taking drugs off the shelves at this pharmacy is done with mechanical precision. But under capital controls imposed while Greece remains without a deal with its international creditors, gaps are beginning to appear,
Both into Europe and following the violence against migrants in South Africa.
What can the African Union do in the wake of the backlash of the xenophobic attacks?
As the AU, obviously.
The members of the anti-IS coalition are hailing the operations so far as mildly successful, and are even now starting to think about how to reconstruct a post-IS Iraq.
The EU is 1/3 reliant on South African citrus imports. They supply the demand through the European summer.
As far as the trade in international produce goes, this is no small matter. More than 600,000 tonnes of South African citrus fruit are imported into the EU every year. The Parliament in Athens has had to rapidly approve banking, judicial and spending reforms, totalling around €13 billion in cuts, before the Eurozone will begin the negotiations on the bailout.
Both the suspects have now been killed by police. The factory is just over on the hill behind me here, and we're hearing that the hostage may perhaps be safe, but this is unconfirmed reports as yet. We've just seen